For today's Essential Heretics 101 feature, we interview Katelin Holloway, founding partner at 776. Katelin challenges venture capital orthodoxy, demonstrating why HR professionals should claim checkbook authority over traditional finance backgrounds in early stage investing. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the HR Heretics podcast, where we get into the real talk of company construction. These are the conversations that happen between founders, chief people officers, and board members behind closed doors. Today, our episode is with Katelin Holloway. Katelin is a partner at 776, the VC firm she and Alexis Ohanian run together. Katelin was the former VP of People at Reddit and worked at Clout and Pixar before that. She's also known to many HR pros because she's the host of a podcast called All Hands from Lattice, which is awesome. Here's our conversation with Katelin, everybody.
Katelin, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So I want to just start quickly with your background. You're currently a partner at 776. You were also the head of people at Reddit from like 70 to more than 700. How did you initially get into people in HR?
That is a good question. So yeah, how did I get into HR? Was totally an accident. A lot of the best folks in our industry are people who I think will say HR found me. It's almost always HR found me. And I think that part of that is because the world of HR prior to 15 years ago was so antiquated and it was so not a destination career. But I think that most people found it on accident because they were naturally drawn to, or they were in an organization where people were coming to them, people were confiding in them. And so it really was a community role, an internal community role. So prior to getting into the world of tech and the world of HR, I was at Pixar Animation Studios, where I never held an HR position. But what I like to say is I was a client and a very happy client of the HR and people function at Pixar. And I really credit that team with teaching me so much about what great HR looks like. And so when I eventually left the studio and I did move into tech, it was an opportunity to take all of the incredible things that I'd learned there as a customer to say, gosh, I love the way they built out their learning and development system. Looking at the Pixar University model, for example, they didn't call it learning and development. It was the Pixar University. And it's funny because it's called PU. And the beauty of that program was they allowed anybody in the studio, regardless of your role, your title, your tenure, your salary, anything, could attend any course. They saw that you could develop deep relationships and move the business forward and unpack and discover creative ideas that could then be put into the film or put into a part of the process from all different parts of the organization. And so for me, that was not, we need to have a learning and development system. It was, how do we live the value? Great ideas come from anywhere.
So Katelin, you've been working with Alexis Ohanian now for, I think, about 9 years. How did you meet Alexis, and how has that relationship evolved over time?
Yeah. So how I met him was he hired me at Reddit. So during the big turnaround, I think that we first met in 2015, and it was through a recruiter. She kept telling me every time we met, because I was actually hiring, which is the only reason I was talking with her. And she would, pick my brain. I have this interesting company. I'm having trouble finding the best candidate. It's so unique. And then she would present me with a challenge the company was having. And so in my next weekly sync with her, she knew I was stewing on it and thinking about it, but she wouldn't tell me the name of the company. And so I'd come back thinking about the challenges this organization was facing. I'd be like, have they thought about this? Have you introduced someone with this profile? Blah, blah, blah. And then soon enough, I was already in love. She knew I was invested. And so push came to shove. She actually did not tell me the name of the company until I was in an Uber getting out on site. That's because that's how bad of a brand the company was at that particular moment.
Wow.
Yeah, they'd had 3 CEOs in less than a year. They were in the news for all the wrong reasons. This was the beginning of the turnaround. And so I was one of the first executive hires that was made by that team, including Alexis, to say, hey, something that we want to do different in this chapter and something we know that's deeply important is finally put a focus on people. And I think that when you are doing something very hard, I think that most of us have had this experience, when you are truly doing something that is very, very, very hard, it builds a deeper bond faster. And so having been in the trenches with Alexis, our employees, when I started, refused to wear the company merch on the street. They wouldn't wear the swag because they would get bullied or picked on, or they were embarrassed to work at that company at that time. And So to see the transition, and that's, that's such a small indicator of the health of an organization, but the amount of change that we were able to create together as that newly formed leadership team was one of the best rides of my career.
But Katelin, your acceleration into venture has been just so freaking fun to watch. And I know you have such a strong point of view and are making a lot of noise in a great way about more of you, more of us, more of people leaders into venture. And I'd love to talk about it.
I'm so glad that you were bringing this up, because this is absolutely one of my biggest points of passion right now. I feel so lucky to have entered the workforce within the people and culture sphere when I did. And I talk about it as, dragging HR out of the back room into the boardroom. But it's awesome because the community that existed, that predated, HR 2.0, was so open and willing and saying, yes, let's link arms. And so there was no us versus them when this moment of change, this need for, the change catalyst that had to occur to make that happen, not just for our industry, for the sake of our own career development, but really for the sake of business outcomes, right? And so beating my fists on the table around business outcomes, where this is not nice to have, this is not soft, fluffy, let's make the HR folk feel seen. This was about how do we augment business outcomes? And so what occurred to me, after I feel like we've had this major revolution, where we are now, it is just commonplace, which is exactly where you want to get, that the voice of human resources or people and culture is heard and reverberates throughout the organization. And that is inclusive of the boardroom. It is inclusive of the executive room. I knew that I was needing to make a transition, and I was looking down the paths. I was staring at the fork in the road, and I thought, okay, I can go and run a playbook that I know and love and work that I'm deeply and desperately passionate about. Again, finding another Reddit was going to be hard for me. I had such deep love and connection and care, and that has developed into incredible opportunity for me. Or I can really lean into this work that I've been doing with Initialized, which it had become very clear to me that all of the critical skill sets needed for early stage investing, after the check is written, they're people skills. They're the skill sets that I've been building for 10 years at that point to say, whether it is finding that deal, right? So that's a function of recruiting. It's you must have a healthy built relationship and network within an area that you are passionate about. The parallel between recruiting and that is the same. It is the same skill set, the same mental, even the same spreadsheets for me, right? And then after the check is written, which a lot of people argue, myself included, that first chapter of company building, pre-seed, seed stage, it's that 0 to 1. Almost all of those challenges are going to be people challenges. Building early teams, functional dynamics of those teams, compensation. So how do I fairly compensate? How do I build my cap table with those early employees around equity? How do I deal with remote and distributed work? All of these things are the work that we are already doing. We're just doing it inside of one organization. And so it occurred to me, as I was advising for a number of these companies and as I was developing my own portfolio, I was like, why don't more HR people work in venture? And so then I went down a rabbit hole of investigating who are the people who have these backgrounds. But what I discovered was the people who had the same skill sets as me were sitting in the back room. They are sitting in the back room, and they are given the title of either HR or they are called talent partner. And the work that talent partner is given is almost exclusively recruiting. So a glorified executive recruiter. And I say that not because I want to speak ill of anyone with the talent partner title, but to actually speak very positively of them and say they're capable of doing so much more and having such a bigger impact, again, on the business outcomes.
Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. Your workforce is your organization's greatest strength and often its largest single expense. But without the right tools, understanding where your workforce spend is going or how it impacts your bottom line can be a challenge. That's where Planful comes in. With Planful, HR and finance teams get the clarity they need to make smarter workforce decisions, gain real-time visibility into workforce fluctuations, forecast with confidence, and adjust talent acquisition plans collaboratively based on costs today and into the future. No more guesswork. just data-driven insights to help you plan with accuracy. And the best part, Planful is fast and easy to implement, so you can be up and running in weeks, not months, with minimal IT support. Plus, as your company grows, Planful grows with you, providing endless runway for strategic workforce planning at any scale. Ready to take your workforce planning to the next level? Join over 1,500 organizations already using Planful. Visit planful.com/heretics to learn more. AI changes how work gets done. Recruiting is no exception. Metaview is the AI platform purpose-built for recruiting. If you're looking to level up your AI adoption and see real impact from intake to offer, it's a no-brainer. Metaview's suite of AI agents works for you at every stage of the hiring process. Their platform powers instant job post creation, AI-powered candidate Q&A, insights on pipeline performance, compensation, and so much more. I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high-quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in candidate debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes all of that. For every candidate in every pipeline, bring radical efficiency and precision to your hiring process with perfect data from every conversation. Metaview covers all of your compliance needs, works with all of your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at more than 3,000 elite companies like Brex, Deel, 11 Labs, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Just head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts or get started for free. You'll be up running and AI-enabled in minutes.
I think what they would say, Katelin, is that there's the skill of company picking takes time to learn, and company picking is a lot different than company operating. And so I'd say that's one skill set that I have personally heard. The other one is the Marc Andreessen quote, which I'll butcher, but it's something along the lines of like, most of venture is negative selection, and the positive selection of venture, the companies you really want to take your money, they have to pick you. And so that's where I'm actually curious to get your take on this, is how does an HR person crack in when that is what they're competing against?
I like to spar a little bit, if you haven't realized, but the picking, a lot of these, and Katelin, I love your thoughts on this, is picking the founder, right? I've heard oodles of times, and I agree with it. You're not investing in usually the thing or the widget. You're investing in that human. You're investing in that founder, which now we're back to recruiting and exactly what you talked about, Katelin. So I'd love you to weave that in too, but I do believe that.
I believe that wholeheartedly. And I want to make it clear. I think that this is a yes and. This is we just need more perspective at the table and different skill sets at the table. We are at the precipice. We are sitting on this edge of shift and change. It is a platform shift. It is a seminal moment in technology and the broader ecosystem, the broader economy, the global economy, right? This is not a debate on is AI taking our jobs, I promise. But that is a huge platform shift. We are at a seminal moment with that alone. And so venture capital has been undisrupted, despite them investing in disruptive companies for, the last several decades, is no longer working. And so what we are seeing in the more traditional venture capital firms is they are growing the part of their internal business that actually leans more on support than selection. But I do think that one of the reasons that we stand out in a crowded market to say, please take our money, is because we have built our reputation around being product and people first. Our team just looks different when you look at our profiles and you look at how we've designed our not only our team, but our processes. And so, one thing that we built is called our growth and caregiving program, where we actually are carving out dollars for every investment we make into a pre-seed and seed stage company to actually support the human. And Kelly, to your point, the human who is building this, because founders are, they are strapped for cash, especially right now in this market. Everything is about reducing your burn rate. And so the last thing they're going to invest in is, heaven forbid, mental health. Heaven forbid, taking that date night and having a babysitter. That is how we're going to get more checkbooks, not backroom gigs for people who have deep, deep HR experience. This is how we're going to get the checkbook in those hands. And that is my goal. I really desperately think that our world would be a better place if we had more people who had depth of care and operational excellence and experience in building organizations who have had successful business outcomes in our industry. I really desperately think that this is what's needed, and we're starting to see it happen, and it makes me so happy.
I guess, Katelin, the question for you, what are 1 to 2 things that folks in the operating seat, maybe they're in the operating seat for a period of months or years before they think about this, what should they be doing now to have the confidence and the ability to be that army you speak of?
Best question ever. My biggest piece of advice would be building your relationship with founders. And I say that, and it sounds opposite than build relationship with investors or build relationships with venture capital firms. It's actually build your relationship and build your reputation with founders. So there is this unspoken NPS score between founders that say that person was helpful, that person was not. There's nothing more frustrating than a VC showing up saying, how can I be helpful? And then literally ghosting. And that is what occurs 9 times out of 10. And so what I discovered early in my advising days and my angel investing days was that I was the only person in their orbit and on their cap table. And I can talk about how you get on cap tables without money, because I also think that's a barrier that I want to remove for people, because oftentimes that venture has very intentionally put money as a blocker to get people into the industry. And so I have tools and techniques on how to do it, but there is a very clear path. If you have this skill set, you are auto value add to any founder. By looking into your own network and your relationships that you have around people who are out there actually doing the hard work of building a company, by being a source of value for them, genuinely and truly, I guarantee you will be the only one in their orbit. Let's start within their orbit, not just on their cap table, and maybe not yet, but you will be the one that they come to time and time again. And when someone asks them, dear so-and-so, who has been the most helpful? As they are ringing the bell on IPO day, or they just have sold their company for a few $1 billion, think back to that first chapter. Who was the most helpful person? If it is your name because you coached them through how to break up with their co-founder, or you helped bring on their new COO who changed the name of the game at a milestone moment, that is absolutely your investor reputation and brand. And so that honestly was how I broke in, was by simply building my name and my reputation amongst the best founders in the world.
Yep.
Let me build off that really fast, because as a founder, I can hyper validate what you just said. I think the best advice I get is when it is coming from somebody who has deep experience in the thing that I need advice on. And then the second best advice I get is, I don't know, but I know someone that does, and I can put you in contact with them. And I find that the worst advice I get is when someone is trying to give me advice on a topic that they actually don't know shit about.
Exactly. And that's why I say your existing relationships. So if you have a founder say I would love to, but I don't know how, or my VC, my partner, my primary investor won't let me. So I'm glad you clarified. I would never, ever.
Totally. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nolan. I mean, you have to enjoy it. You have to literally be genuine about wanting to freaking help. I mean, I think I talk to at least 2 to 3 founder CEOs a month, just for free. I love it. Hey, they have a question. They're interested. They're hiring ahead of people. You make connections, you give back. Those relationships continue. I mean, some of those have gone on to be equity-based advisors. Other haven't. It's fine because it all works out. And founders can tell, right? I mean, we all get, as humans, you can tell whether you're there for a certain agenda or you're kind of half in for $1 versus this is what I love doing. I love building relationships. I want to help you. And that genuinely leads out. So always take the calls. It never hurts, and give back.
Totally. One of the most reputable and well-known advisors that I know actually won't even take equity until she spent 4 to 6 hours with the founder, because she's like, I actually want to assess that this works for me too, and that I want to work with you. And so even though it's counterintuitive to give away your time for free, it's best for everybody involved.
Exactly.
But it's never for free. There's always a benefit.
Yeah.
There's always an intrinsic or there's always a benefit to that.
So that's even better said. Yep.
Okay. Katelin, we'd love to hear any a top of your head, potent, burning experiences, events, things in your past that have helped you tremendously as far as learnings, good, bad, or ugly, that helped you get where you are.
Oh, there are so many of those. There's one story. This one comes up for me so often, just as like such a pivotal moment for me. Ed Catmull, president of Pixar at the time when I had worked there, he and I had a conversation around my career and my development, because I started at Pixar as an executive assistant. And that was a deviation from what I had done previously. And it was not necessarily what I wanted to do going forward, although I love that work. You know, it was a total hallway conversation. And he said to me, Katelin, it takes us 5 years here to make a film. If you still don't know what you want to do when you grow up after 5 years, come and let me know, because I will have failed you. And I quit on almost exactly my 5-year anniversary. And it was not because Ed had failed me. It was because he had given me so much. That organization had given me so much. And I wanted to take that and build on it in a new chapter of my career, in a new industry. And so that was a really pivotal moment. And I think that set the groundwork for me for the conversation that we had earlier around knowing when to leap. And so I left that company when I was the happiest. But because Ed had given me he time boxed it for me on accident. And so I was very cognizant. And so as I took on different roles within the organization, I worked in so many different parts of the studio that when I got to the end, I was like, do I know what I want to do when I grow up? And the answer was no. But it wasn't because I was unhappy. It was because I was developing and I was growing and I wanted to go do that elsewhere. And so I think that he really set me up for that, being just aware and being able to time box things for myself to make sure that I was listening to my needs as someone growing a career and not knowing what I wanted to do. And I say to this day, I still don't know what I want to do. I love what I'm doing and I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And I think that's a beautiful place to be. So that's the one that comes top of mind.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I feel the exact same way. Like everyone says like, oh, it seems like you have it figured out. And I'm like, I have nothing figured out. And it turns out like the smartest people, when you talk to them, they're all like, yeah, I'm just on this crazy journey that's called life. And I just follow where the path takes me.
Perhaps that's the right answer.
Katelin, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. We've had an absolute blast learning from you, and our audience is going to love this show. Thank you for the time.
Ditto. Thank you so much, Katelin.
Oh, I'm so grateful for being invited on. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the show and a big fan of the audience. So it is my pleasure to join you. Thank you so much for having me.
HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.